talking about the Aurora Police Department. We're going to get to your calls in a second here at 257-5396. You know, these officers go to see this kid, Elijah McClain, who's walking in Aurora. He's walking back from work. He's doing absolutely nothing wrong. Somehow now he's dead. He had no weapons on him. Police put him in a chokehold. He's dead. He died in police custody. Why is that story not making more national news? And then days later, several of those officers are seen in a picture mocking the chokehold, smiling in a picture as if it's funny. Those officers have since been fired. They should be in jail as far as I'm concerned. And then we have this audio for you of a black family consisting of a mother, her 6-year-old, 12-year-old, 14-year-old, and 17-year-old, all lying face down in a parking lot with the youngest wearing a pink crown crying for her mom. Listen to this audio.
Hey, Brian, if you're not involved, please step back. I just appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll tell you something. That is difficult to listen to. I hope that family sues, and I'll tell you something. I hope they get a lot more money than that Sandman family. I'll tell you that right now. Number to call, 702-257-5396. Let's start off with Malik. Malik, you are first up on the Vegas Take. What's going on, man?
Hey, what's up, Malik? It's been a while.
Hey, fellas. Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Going all right.
Hey, JD, you are so myopic when it comes to race relations and systemic racism. I mean, dude, you just so out of touch. You make me angry. But Brian, when I seen that video, I got daughters, man. I wanted to beat the living crap out of that cop that was putting his hand on the kid that was on the ground.
I don't blame you. I don't blame you.
That was almost like that was molestation.
I don't blame you.
You know they don't have any weapons. They're kids. And are you animals? I mean, you can't.
You cannot convince me. Listen, if one of those kids was attacking a police officer, then they would have a right to restrain that kid. If one of those kids had a weapon, there's no evidence to support that. First of all, why are you handcuffing the kids? Why are they face down on the asphalt? And how can anybody tell me that this has nothing to do with race?
Okay, you know what, Brian? See, the thing is, you know what? Okay, like you said. I'm going to agree with you, and everybody that's listening to this program has to agree. That would never happen to a white family. A woman with 4 girls? I mean,
So, Malik, hang on a second. Malik, you know that we agree on this. Obviously, JD disagrees. I want you guys, as a black man, can you explain to JD why we feel that way? And JD, you respond the way you want to, and you explain to Malik. Well, let's start with JD. Explain to Malik why you don't think this had anything to do with race.
I think this situation could happen to any one of any race. Could be Hispanic, African American, Caucasian. I think that the police officers made a mistake. They thought that the car was stolen and it wasn't stolen. No, obviously, I'm saying after the fact that they had their heads on the asphalt, kind of like in Straight Outta Compton in the movie that I saw yesterday. That's not typical, obviously. But I think that could happen to any race, obviously. And as far as the Elijah McClain situation, do you understand the details behind that, Brian? So Elijah McClain he was walking back from getting tea for his brother. He was wearing a ski mask, and the officer accused him of grabbing his gun. And obviously, those officers after the fact.
Oh my God!
Those officers. Malik, I'm just telling you exactly what it says. You can get mad at me for relaying just standard information. It's not. Don't get angry about information. That being said, the police officers after the fact, the ones that mocked it, they of course should have been fired. I totally agree with that. Right, that's 100% reasonable.
Okay, so go ahead, Malik.
All I'm saying is we don't know for a fact that this was a race. Just because there's a police officer and there's an African American family or a person that's involved, you always assume that it's race, and we don't know for a fact. It's been happening a lot, and I'm saying it isn't necessary.
Let's let Malik respond. Go ahead, Malik.
You're making an assumption.
JD,
what's up, Malik?
Man, you are so myopic. It's hurtful, man. I hear you say the only reason why white officers are always stereotyping black people, even girls, is because they got this fear that all black people must be guilty. Like Brian said, all he had to do was say, first of all, with the guns drawn, how about, can I see your license and registration?
Right.
And when you notice there's children in the car, That's a de-escalation.
I got to tell you, Malik, if you have a heart and you hear the 7-year-old crying for her mom while she's on, if you have a heart, you take those handcuffs off. Malik, I appreciate. It's horrible.
Put on the ground, the little baby girl.
We're in agreement, Malik. I appreciate the phone call, and then we wonder why African Americans have a certain feeling towards law enforcement. 702-257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Kevin. Kevin is next on the Vegas Take.
What's up, Kevin?
Hey, guys. Hey, Brian, good job. Just keep bringing out the information. I checked out the video. I'm fuming mad. But
It's horrible.
It's horrible. But I know you're going to get mad, JD, but the verdict is in. You are a racist, bro.
I'm not racist at all. I'm far from, Kevin.
You're a racist.
I am far from racist,
you are
Kevin.
The slime of racism, and people that support you, you're a racist, bro.
Like
I'm not holding any more hope for you.
that
You
makes
are done.
absolutely no
I'm
sense
absolutely
whatsoever.
done with you. You're a racist.
All right, well, let JD defend himself, Kevin.
No,
let him defend himself.
I'd actually rather ban Kevin from the show, Brian, at this point.
Humanity, humanness, even just human decency. You are a racist.
Wait, you're calling me racist because I'm saying that we don't know for a fact that race was part of this. That's all I'm saying.
All right, Kevin.
That's all I said.
Kevin, hang on.
And you're jumping down my throat because I'm not thinking the exact same way you're thinking. I'm saying this incident could happen to any family, which I think that it could.
JD has a right to defend himself.
Is it possible that race was involved here? Yes. But you don't know that for a fact.
All right, so JD, hang on a second.
And constantly assuming that any time a police officer and an African-American person or family is involved, that race is involved is dangerous,
Hang on
Kevin.
a second.
And that rhetoric, calling me racist over and over
hang
and over,
on a second.
that's dangerous,
Hang on a second. Kevin.
Just because I'm explaining what I
hold
think,
on a
it
second.
has nothing
JD,
to do
you gotta let me chime in.
Me having a bias.
I understand.
Any type of bias whatsoever.
Let me chime in here for a second. When people call me a name on this show, I will treat you the same way, Kevin, as I would treat somebody else who calls me a name. And people call me names, by the way, every day on this show.
Right.
I give them a chance to give their reason why. So I'm going to give you the chance, and then I'm going to give JD a chance to defend it. Is that fair? Why do you think my co-host is a racist? Why would you say that?
You have to understand from the prism in which he is looking is through eyes of a racist person. He cannot empathize. He cannot see. He cannot understand. He can't comprehend the racist just tones that he has in him, and I'm picking up on every last one of them. JD, you will always fall on the side of just a bigot.
That's not true at all.
A negative.
That isn't true at all. I just defended.
Sorry, Kevin. We had to jump you off there. We got to get to some other calls.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just defended the last African American that was involved in this situation in California. I've defended David Dorn on many instances. I've defended plenty of African Americans. All I'm saying is assuming that the police are automatically racist just because there is an African American involved with a Caucasian police, assuming that these police officers were all Caucasian, we don't know that for a fact. I also just said that those 3 police officers that were mocking the Elijah McClain death should have been fired. You just don't like the fact that
well, of course they should have been fired.
Exactly,
Any reasonable human being would say that.
I don't think a racist would say that. I think a racist would say,
but you said,
that's totally reasonable.
Listen, JD, I disagree with you with a lot of the things you say on this show.
No, I'm just tired of any time a police officer is involved with anything that involves the opposite of race, that they're automatically coined as a racist.
Okay, I personally believe that when you say, let me say it like this, and then we got a ton of calls, so I got to get to the calls. I believe when you make statements like yesterday, when you say that George Floyd, that didn't have anything to do with race. I believe when you make statements like that, at minimum, I think you're just a little bit misguided. 702-257-5396. Let's go to Anthony. Anthony, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Anthony?
Dave.
What's up, Anthony?
Hey, how are you, Brian?
Doing good, my man. What's on your mind?
Oh, not a whole lot. I wanted to bring up an incident that I remembered happened in Detroit back some years ago. They had a incident with a young woman shoplifting.
Mm-hmm.
So she runs out of the store. Security guard grabs her.
Yep.
He lays her down on the ground. He gets on top of her. I mean, more than likely he had a struggle. And he laid on top of her because that was his way of restraining her.
Right.
She was saying the same thing that Floyd was saying, George Floyd. She couldn't breathe.
Uh-huh.
And it happened that it turned out this young lady passed away.
That's horrible. That's horrible.
She actually passed away right there on the scene. The guy stayed on her. Now, both of them were African Americans.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So when it comes to that, so this is why sometimes when JD mentioned about it, is it really, could it been, or perhaps could it been racism? Well, we know one thing: they were both African Americans.
Right.
With the car incident that's happening with these police now, I'm getting word that the vehicle that these young ladies were in was not even the same kind of vehicle.
Exactly, and I'm glad you
that the
I'm glad you bring
police
that
were
up.
Looking for.
Anthony, Anthony, I am so glad you brought that up, by the way, and thank you for that phone call. This wasn't a situation where it was the exact same vehicle with maybe one letter off of a plate. No, he's absolutely right in reading this story. It wasn't even the same type of car. And you've got 4 kids on the asphalt. All right, we got a lot of phone calls. Let's get to them. 257-5396. Let's go to David. David, you are next on the Vegas Take. David, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, David?
I think a lot of people are kind of misrepresenting this as racism. It's a class problem. I mean, these people are in high crime areas, and it's a class problem. I mean, we don't see these incidents in the wealthier areas with African Americans. I myself have driven a car like with primer on it, a truck, and somebody switched my license plate, and I got pulled out in a felony stop. So, I mean, it happens to white people. That's
okay. So can I ask you a question? When you get pulled over on a felony stop, did they point a gun at you? Did they tell you to get out of the car? Were you face first on the asphalt? Were you handcuffed?
Yes, I was.
Did you have kids with you?
No, I had a girl with me, and they took her out too. So,
Why did they pull you over? Did you do something wrong?
No, my truck had somebody switched the plates on my truck, and it had a stolen plate, and then my truck looked like a junker truck because it had primer on it.
Okay, fair enough. So somebody, you don't know who, you're just saying it just so happens that somebody put another plate on your car, and you have no idea how that happened?
Yeah, it didn't match the car, so that's why they pulled me out, and it was a stolen plate.
Okay,
a stolen car.
understood.
So, I mean, it happened.
Okay, understood. But I don't have as much a problem with that, and here's why. They actually had reason to pull you over. It was a stolen car as far as they saw. At least the plate said it was stolen. They had reason, and that they followed proper protocol. You do understand that, David, do you not?
Yeah, I understand that. What I'm saying is, I mean, these things happen, and it's not going to change.
Hold on a second.
People are in high crime areas,
David, first of all, when you say you people are in high crime areas, what do you mean by that?
Said these people.
Okay, number one.
These people are in high crime areas.
What do you mean? It is what it is. It happens. So you don't have a problem with 4 black kids, a 7-year-old, a 12-year-old, on the asphalt, face first, in cuffs? You're just going to brush that off?
With it, but the police are not going to change until they're accountable, and they need training in this because they know 9 times out of 10.
I agree.
People in these lower classes. I mean, it happens to white trash.
David, you said it
in all these places.
David, you said it best when you said they have to be held accountable. I could not agree. You're right.
No accountability.
I agree, David. I agree with you.
Class problem.
I agree, and by the way, I am sorry that happened to you. That you got pulled over, and if it wasn't your fault, I'm sorry that it happened. I'm sure that wasn't a great experience for you either. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to Anthony. Anthony is next on the Vegas Take.
Hey, what's up, Anthony?
Good morning, guys. How you doing?
Good.
Doing
What's on
all
your
right.
mind, Anthony?
Hey, you know what's incredible to me is that you're right. The car that was supposed to have been stolen was a motorcycle in Utah. It wasn't even a car.
Anthony, how do you get that wrong? I mean, are you kidding me? That's like pulling over the Dumb and Dumber dog vehicle and thinking it was a Corvette. I mean, really, it's that ridiculous.
And then to put them on the ground like that, I mean, it's incredible. It angered me. You know, the only time I got angered and when I wanted revenge was the woman in Texas.
Right.
And then see that little girl and him and that little girl like that at 7-year-old.
It's horrible.
Yeah, here's what the police department said. They said that officers are trained when contacting a stolen car to do what is called a high-risk stop. In a high-risk stop, weapons are drawn, and occupants are told to exit the car and lie prone on the ground, which is exactly what took place.
Okay, so first of all,
that's a statement directly from the police.
Right,
department.
they're trying to cover their own asses because they don't want to be sued. Obviously,
if that's the policy, then that's the policy. And if that's the policy, then the policy should probably change unless you're totally sure it's a stolen car.
Understood.
Which obviously they weren't.
It was a motorcycle they were looking for.
A mistake was made.
Okay, but JD, you can't expect the police chief to come out and say, you know what, man, we really screwed up. I'm so sorry. I'm not saying this had anything to do with race, but boy, did we screw up big time. I'm so sorry to those kids. You know why the police chief is not going to do that? And he'll say, well, we made a mistake. You know why he's not going to do that? Because he's trying to cover his own ass, which most of these officers do, even when he knows that their officer's behavior, Anthony, in that situation was disgusting.
It wasn't the police chief. It was a spokesperson for the department, Brian.
I'm sorry? I'm sorry, Anthony?
Could be an issue where it's not a stolen car issue, and they're just saying that.
Anthony, let me be very clear. Everything is on the table, my friend.
Now, as a caveat to that, officers, they do have the ability to deviate from this type of stop, dependent on the situation. So, officers, if they think that it's high, if the policy is high risk, but they don't actually think it's high risk, they can choose not to actually do that. I'm not sure. And they went through with that. In my opinion, they shouldn't have gone through with that without being 100% certain that car was stolen.
257.
That was a major mistake, but I feel like that mistake would happen to any family regardless of color. That's all I'm saying.
It just so happens
that does not make me racist.
Well, first of all, I didn't say that, so don't look at me and say that,
Kevin
number one.
Every single day for weeks on end.
Okay, well, so there's people that call in all the time that call me names every day. 257-5396 is the number to call. Let's go to, who are we going to? We're going to Keith, right? Keith, you're next on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, what's up, Keith?
Hey, yes, sir. I'm gonna talk to JD. I do not need to defend you. You are calm and collected. You make good arguments. I love your points, but it pisses me off when somebody calls you racist.
Does it piss you off when people call Donald Trump racist?
He's not racist.
Okay, so let me ask you a question, Keith. Let's go.
Hold on, Brian. You just compared.
No, I understand. I didn't call JD racist.
Why would you even mention that?
Okay, I'll explain to you why.
Honestly, Joe Biden sounds much more racist than Donald Trump does right now.
If I can respond to Keith, Keith. Okay, let's take JD. Keith. Let's take JD out of the equation. I didn't call him a racist, so let's take that out of the equation. Okay, I understand that, Keith. I'm not an idiot. I understand the caller called him that, okay? Okay, I'm sorry you're pissed off, okay? But my question to you is this. Are you okay with people calling out others that actually are racist? For example, David Duke. Are you okay with me calling David Duke a racist?
100%.
Okay, good. I'm glad to hear that. What about Laura Ingraham? Are you okay with me calling Laura Ingraham a racist?
No.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question then. What would you call a woman who goes after Nipsey Hussle before he's 6 feet underneath the ground? She didn't know who he was before, goes after his lyrics. What would you call a woman who tells LeBron James to shut up and dribble, but then when you have Ted Nugent on and he shares her views, he doesn't tell her to shut up and sing. He doesn't tell Drew Brees to shut up and throw a football. So why is it wrong for me to call Laura Ingraham a racist?
Because LeBron James plays basketball. Go play basketball.
Okay, well, you sound like a racist, Keith. Have a nice day. 702-257-5396. By the way, Keith, I hope that pissed you off. Let's go to Joe. Joe is next on the Vegas Take. Joe, what's going on?
You just attacked someone for defending me, Brian.
Because he plays basketball.
You know what? Way to stand your ground on that.
Thanks, Joe.
I think what you do is that you don't take just immediately the other side when it's a police.
No, I don't make knee-jerk reactions. I very rarely make knee-jerk reactions.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and your co-host seems that he wants to take Joe Biden's job and be the mouthpiece for.
Okay, so Joe, let's stop you right there, my friend, because you sound like a buffoon. First of all, I just recently said, why don't you shut up and let me talk? Okay, shut up. Or I'll hang up on you. First of all, keep laughing with your Tucker Carlson feminine laugh. Keep laughing. Okay. First of all, until recently, I just said that I was voting for Joe Biden. I don't speak for Joe Biden. I don't speak for Democrats. In fact, I've never voted for a Democrat, and I didn't vote for Hillary Clinton. So that's number one. I'm not a mouth. Excuse me. Keep shutting up. Okay. I'm not a mouthpiece for Democrats. In fact, all I am is a mouthpiece for justice. I don't like what happened to this family. I don't like it. You shouldn't like it either. Guess what? I don't like it what happened to Elijah McClain. I don't like it when cops laugh after somebody died in their custody. I don't like what happened to George Floyd. I want equality for everybody. So if you want to mock me for that and you want to say that I'm a mouthpiece for Joe Biden because you're an idiot, you go right ahead, Joe, but I'm moving on to the next call because I think you're a moron.
Good call, Joe.
702-257-5396. Go to Steve. Steve is next on the Vegas Take. Steve, what's going on?
Hey, Steve.
Hey, Hey, guys, I'm going to call you both a name, righteous and correct. Most of the time.
Well, I appreciate
I've
that.
been
Thank you.
listening 300-400 hours in the last 6 months since I had the pleasure of finding out you guys are on the air.
Well, thank
But
you.
let me say this, in all fairness, I have a lot of African-American friends. There is a bias with cops. There's no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm.
Some are good guys that will not judge like that. But let me say this, in all fairness, 67% of the murders last year were committed by African Americans, who only represent 13% of the population.
Mm-hmm.
So not in this case, Brian or JD, but in some cases when there's stops, things like happen at night when there's 2 or 3 African Americans in a car, you can understand a little tiny bit of bias. But in this case, absolutely, I agree with you guys. It was an overreaction completely.
Yep.
But please consider that fact. 13% of the population commits well over 20% of the felonies. So some of these cops do have an attitude that maybe is unjustified.
I hear you, Steve, and that's a good call.
And we had one of our police officers, Calvin, who's a former police officer. He called in and basically said the exact same thing, that every single police officer has a bias, but that's predicated in past experiences.
Calvin was being honest, and
the data does back that up.
Calvin was being honest, and I appreciate anybody, even if I disagree with them, I appreciate anybody that is honest on this show, even if I disagree with them. 257-5396. But if you call up and say something stupid and say that I'm a mouthpiece for Joe Biden, I'm going to give it to you. Do we have enough time for one more call, Sean? We don't. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. There's a lot of people waiting on hold. I promise you I will get to every single one of your calls on the other side of the break. Say what you want about me. I'm a pretty honest guy. I'm a man of my word. JD, am I not a man of my word? When I say I'm going to get to all their calls, come on.
You and the Joker from The Dark Knight are both men of your words.
That's not very nice. I'm not the Joker. That's not true. By the way, I would never be in a clown outfit with
that's a very famous line from that movie.
I know it was. I know it was. I know it was. It was a very good movie. I enjoyed it.
Outstanding movie.
I enjoyed it. But the scene when the gun pops out, when he's the clown and he's jumping around with the kids and stuff.
Hey, did that shooting take place in Aurora at that movie theater?
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
That's
we
where
actually
it was, right?
had. Do you remember when we were doing our night show? Yeah, we had someone who was in that theater. They've had a lot of problems in Aurora.
Yeah,
they've had a lot of problems in Aurora. But anyway, as JD said with the Joker reference, yes, I'm a man of my word. I will get to all your calls on the other side of the break. Racism is there. Systemic racism is there. I'm sorry. Just listen to the audio. We're talking about that. 702-257-5396. Again, if you want to be a part of the program, now's the time to call in, 257-5396. I promise all of you on hold, we will get to all of your calls on the other side of the break. You are listening to The Vegas Take. All right, welcome back. It is The Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Glad you could join us on a Thursday talking about the Aurora Police Department. 3 officers fired, depicting a chokehold near the Elijah McClain Memorial where Elijah died in the hands of police. All he was doing was walking home, a black kid who was walking home from work, and now these 3 officers are fired, and now the Aurora police chief saying, well, it was done wrong. Yeah, no crap. You pulled over a family with a bunch of African-American girls, 6, 12, 14, 17, all black, with their faces on the asphalt, handcuffed, and you were trying to find a motorcycle that was stolen and they're driving a car? How the hell does that happen? You want to talk about, at a minimum, pathetic policing. Disgusting. We're taking your phone calls at 257-5396. Let's go to Kevin. Kevin, you're up next. You're on the Vegas Take. What's going on?
Hey, Kevin.
How you guys doing? First-time caller. Love listening to your guys' show.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that.
I love both aspects. I do have 14 years of law enforcement here in the Valley.
Oh, good.
Experience. So just to maybe, get some more details on the stop, I'd like to know. I know the plate did match up with the motorcycle stolen. Now, a lot of times, we'll call in and say, hey, if this is a plate of certain thing, if our dispatcher doesn't necessarily come back and say, hey, it's supposed to be on a motorcycle,
right,
we have to treat it as a stolen vehicle. So there are standard procedures that we do. We do pull them out at gunpoint, order them out. Now, I do believe these officers could have done a lot better by getting intel, maybe pull the mom out, get some information, hey, what's going on? Because I've actually had this happen to me about 10 years ago. I had pull over a Jeep. It was reported stolen. The lady found her car before we did, and she decided to drive it home. While she was driving home with her family, I ran the plate, came back stolen.
Can I ask you a question, though, Kevin?
Yeah,
based on your experience, and I appreciate that. If you have 4 teenage girls, why can't you just tell them, you guys need to stay in this area or stay in the car? You know that if you assume that they're not a threat to you, which I would assume these 4 young girls were not, they didn't have any weapons on them. Why did they have to not only handcuff them, but face down on the asphalt, a 7-year-old girl? Why can't one of the other officers just say, hey, guys, just hang out in my cruiser for a little bit. We just got to check some stuff out. You want to handcuff the mom, that's fine, even though I don't know how they can make the mistake of a motorcycle to a car. Why couldn't they have done that, Kevin? You wouldn't have done that, would you?
No, when the incident happened to me, I got the intel. There was younger children inside the car. There was two younger ones. I think one was 5 and one was 8.
Right.
I got the intel, and I told the other officers, hey, there's 2 kids in the car. Let's pull them out. We pulled them out. We didn't handcuff them. We didn't want it to the other officers. I said they kind of held on to them and talked to them while I talked to the mom. We got the whole thing clarified. So now I don't know what Aurora's operation, what their policy procedures are. I just don't know what theirs are, so I can't comment on exactly what they do.
Well,
I know
Kevin, if it's a high risk,
we're pretty progressive when it comes to dealing with stuff. I mean, we're always going to be behind the 8 ball, I guess, when it comes to new stuff, because you can have an incident you've never prepared for, and you have to make new policies later on that kind of adapt to it.
And Kevin, if it's a high risk stop, which that was deemed to be because it was potentially a stolen vehicle, even though that was obviously a mistake, they're taken out of the car at gunpoint and they're lied down. That's the policy in Aurora.
That's our standard operating procedure as well. Obviously, on my experience, and I don't know how long those officers been on. A lot of times, just for what I've seen through my 14 years, is we can kind of look at it and I can kind of gauge okay, something doesn't seem right about this stolen car or this situation.
Sure, no, that's understandable.
And they have that same option in the Aurora Police Department as well.
Thank you for the call, Kevin.
Yeah, great
Appreciate
call, Kevin.
702
Very informative.
257-5396. The key in that phone call is based on what he does know now. He would not have treated those girls that way. Let's go to Jason. Jason is next on the Vegas Take. Jason, what's going on?
Hey, Jason.
Hey, there's no doubt that those cops were wrong, and I'm a supporter of the police.
As am I.
But my thing is, whenever a cop makes a mistake, it gets broadcast over the entire, everything. But whenever a cop does something good, you never hear about it, or rarely.
I agree with you on that. And by the way, I'm one of those people, Jason, as you know, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, not to conflate what we're talking about and the NBA, I think that you should have names on the jerseys as well of police officers that have lost their lives.
I totally agree.
So I am,
absolutely.
Jason, I promise you, I am just as pro-police officer as you are. And every single time I see a cop in public, if I can, I shake their hand and I thank them for what they've done. So while I agree with you that I wish the good police officers would get more credit, I also think in the times we're living in, it 10 times more that the police should be behaving appropriately. You better not make any mistakes right now. And what these officers did during this time that we're living in right now is disgusting.
I agree, but my thing is, rather than, they should be, whatever their punishment is, would be fine with me. Fire them, jail them, whatever you want to do.
Right.
But just don't show it to the world. Just because like you said, the times we're living in right now, we need positive, not negative. I'm not saying they shouldn't be punished.
I agree, but here's the problem with that, Jason. But here's what people would say to that. I understand what you're trying to say, Jason, but here's what people would argue. Why are you keeping it quiet? Why are you keeping it quiet? Why are you keeping it away?
We're trying to keep the peace.
But
I
understand, Jason. I understand.
And I have a problem with what Gilliam said. She said that if there's any police department that needs to be abolished or defunded in the United States, it's the Aurora Police Department.
I don't speak for her because I'm sure there are some good police officers in Aurora. But with that being said, Jason, again, you have to understand this. You have to understand this, okay? As taxpayers, we are paying their salaries. We have a right to know whether they're doing their job appropriately or not. That's all. But I understand where you're coming from. 257-5396. Janice is next. Janice, thanks for calling in. What's on your mind?
Hi, Janice.
Hi, I'm a first-time caller. I've been listening to you for a while.
Thank you, Janice. We appreciate that.
What I wanted to get in on this conversation is this. I'm retired military, and I work
Thank
at
you
VA
for your
currently.
service.
And whenever I try to engage in the conversation about when some of these tragedies happen, they always put that, I understand that, but the police officers, every time when you talk to somebody today and they try to defend it, they're going to say, I get it, I'm not against the police. And I'm not. I'm pro-police. I don't want them to be defunded. I just think they need training and have a national data of people that have a propensity for violence.
Right.
But when people keep on saying, I understand it was wrong this time, and they always have that but in there, we have to understand it frightens and hurts my heart that we keep making excuses when things are really bad. We can't support the bad things.
Agreed.
We have to be proactive and say, okay, this mistake was made. Let's correct this.
And you know what, Janice?
When people talk, they say, but
Yeah, but Janice, I agree with you, and I get frustrated with those people. Let me just say this. While there might be some Marxists, as they say, and there might be some radicals in the Black Lives Matter movement,
right.
the majority of those in the Black Lives Matter movement are protesting for these types of situations. People have had enough. They're tired of it. Are there some bad people in the Black Lives Matter movement? Well, sure. The ones that are rioting and causing havoc and swearing and throwing.
Horrible.
Of course it's terrible. No logical person wants to see that. But to say that all these people, the millions of people protesting across the country are bad people is idiotic. It's idiotic.
It is.
Yeah.
It's sad. I'm black, by the way. So I don't believe so much in Black Lives Matter. I believe in all lives matter, but unfortunately black people seem to have the higher mark on getting killed for no apparent reason, you know.
Yeah.
So I get my black card pulled every once in a while by people say,
Janice,
how can you say that? I'm like, because I try to look at both sides of it.
No, I understand, and that's
I
fair.
believe in freedom of speech, even if you're a Ku Klux Klan when you go home.
Yeah.
Bully for you, but when you're at work, you kind of got to do that equal thing.
Sure. Janice, let me ask you a question before we let you go, and I appreciate your perspective. What would you say to people out there when I talk about these stories, when I talk about Elijah McClain or George Floyd, when we're talking about this horrible story of this family, all black, in handcuffs on the ground, a 6-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 14-year-old, what would you say to people that don't think this has anything to do with race? As an African-American, as a black woman, what would you say to them?
What if it was your daughter, your granddaughter, your son, your son's best friend who just happened to be going home after going to a party, having fun, studying? What if they were just regular kids and we don't look at the color of their skin? What if it was 4 girls driving somewhere in L.A., rocking it out, having a good time, being a little belligerent, a little Californian, and they slammed them on the ground? And how would you feel? You'd be aggravated, annoyed, and mad as hell.
JD, do you understand? By the way, Janice, I
understand that, Brian.
I appreciate the phone call, Janice. Thank you very much for your perspective.
good
You
call,
understand
Janice.
where she's coming from. I do. It's a difficult situation. It's horrible. We want these situations to stop. Yeah, of course, no matter what the color of your skin is, right? We want these situations to stop. But when it keeps happening over and over and over again, we need to address it. We need to talk about it, and we need to get bad cops off the streets. And yeah, by the way, these cops, I'm not even talking about the stop. I'm talking about now these cops. I think we all can agree on this one. These 3 cops who took this picture, what's the next thing they're going to do when it comes to an African-American? They think it's funny that a black kid died in their custody? Shows you their frame of mind and their thinking.